Do you think that we are in store for a roaring 20s, the kind of boom that many economists had been forecasting several months ago when it comes to reopening?
Well, thanks for having me. The Roaring Twenties idea, the Great Gatsby, is a very popular characterization. As a political scientist, I can't contradict economists' forecasts, and there are, of course, a number of very encouraging signals. But what I'm suggesting is it's possible that we have both the Roaring Twenties for some people and more of a Great Gatsby, a Grapes of Wrath scenario for others. A lot of people will have been hurt by the pandemic and may not be able to recover as swiftly as markets can. So grapes of wrath.
Well, that's perhaps a much more fitting characterization, given that we are seeing signs of this K-shaped recovery emerge. I mean, President Biden has now hit his 100 days milestone, and he is trying to push ahead with plans to address some of the longstanding issues in the U.S. economy and address some of the divergence that we're seeing between the high-income earners and the low-income earners in the U.S. What do you think of the proposals on the table? Do you have optimism that we are going to see a closing of this gap at some stage in the near future?
Well, I think it's probably the best opportunity for such an ambitious, far-reaching, and frankly very expensive set of proposals for some time. The way that I would encourage Americans and investors to think about it is that if you worry about populism, if you worry about even more, erratic redistribution or things like this, these kinds of proposals are actually very much in line with the global zeitgeist, the mood of the times. And it's not particularly partisan. If you look at the recent Pew data, a majority of people in developed countries want to see a big change in economic policy, and it includes more provision for public health and a social safety net. And that's across the G7.
Well, Tina, I know you've done a lot of work assessing the resilience of economies to the COVID pandemic and looking at this idea of vaccine populi, I believe you call it. Just give us a sense of your key takeaways from this research and which countries are poised to emerge more resilient and less resilient from the pandemic.
Yes, Vax Populi is a framework that looks at 27 of the largest economies. We wanted particularly to look at it at a different way. We incorporate economic growth, but it's not just about that, because we think that we need to consider the trajectory, not just for rapid recovery, but for resilience in the face of future setbacks. If we believe that we're in a pandemic age, or that there will be, periodic kinds of, double mutant viruses like we see in India or elsewhere, we know that until everyone is vaccinated, which probably won't be till 2023, we're still going to be vulnerable. So with that in mind, we tested and came up with a set of factors most associated with resilience. And when we look at this month's takeaways, we update these measures monthly. We can see that the UK, for example, where I'm based, continues to be the breakout case in Europe, despite having had a pretty terrible record in the first part of the pandemic. It has recovered from that and might even be able to make up some of the lag from Brexit. China is the breakout case for EM, with most of emerging markets economies really struggling. Brazil, obviously, among them, and now India, unfortunately. The United States had a bit of an upgrade, still in yellow territory, not as strong as some of its other OECD peers. The vaccine rollout is helping, but what weighs down the US numbers are things like vaccine skepticism and hesitancy, which is a reflection of our polarized electorate in part, and low trust in government.